Welcome back to the podcast playground. Our newest podcast is The Best Podcast.
Join Jay Carter and me, Vida Best, on The Best Podcast, where the dynamic duo brings you their insider secrets to everything wonderful.
Known for their discerning taste, The Best Family has critiqued the finest in entertainment, technology, and lifestyle.
Now Jay and me dive deep into the top 5 everything, from the latest cell phones to affordable wines that won't break the bank.
So tell a friend, you've found The Best Podcast,
where every recommendation is a gem waiting to be uncovered. Tune in weekly for your dose of excellence.
Today, we're hitting the road. Well, sort of. We're going to be exploring America's ghost towns.
Oh, yeah. Ghost towns. There's something about those abandoned places, you know? They're like these snapshots of history, remnants of dreams and communities that once thrived.
Exactly. And we've got some great articles that'll take us to ghost towns all across the U.S., each one with its own unique story. We'll uncover why they were abandoned, what made them tick, and why they still fascinate us.
It's funny, when you think ghost town, you probably picture, like, the Wild West, like dusty saloons and abandoned mines. But our sources show that there's actually a ton of variety in how these towns came to be.
So it's not all about the gold rush.
Not at all. We'll see ghost towns that popped up from mining booms, yeah. But also ones wiped out by natural disasters, economic shifts, even changes to highway roads.
Wow. Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's get this road trip started then. And I guess our first stop has to be the Wild West, right? Where those gold rushes built towns overnight, only for them to be deserted when the gold ran out.
Yeah, the American West, especially during the gold rush, is like ghost town central. All those folks looking to strike it rich. Our sources say it really shows how powerful the hope of fortune can be.
And one of the most iconic examples, gotta be Body, California.
Right.
It's like stepping into a Western movie set. Everything perfectly preserved, almost eerie how time seems to stand still there.
Yeah, Body's a classic case of what they call arrested decay. That means they preserve the town as it is. Like, they don't really touch the interiors of the buildings or anything. You can walk through those saloons, see the dusty bottles on the shelves. Oh, yeah. Even homes with dinner tables set. Or the schoolhouse with, like, lessons still on the chalkboard, frozen in time.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like the residents just disappeared one day. Our sources say Body's super popular with tourists. I bet people love experiencing that connection to the past.
Absolutely. And it's not just Body. Another gold rush ghost town that's captured a lot of attention is Bannack, Montana.
Bannack, okay.
Yeah. It's a state park now. Gives you a real feel for those boomtown days. Restored buildings, trails. They even have this annual festival called Bannack Days where they try to recreate what life was like back then.
I love that. Bringing history to life like that makes you wonder what it must have been like to actually walk those streets during the gold rush.
For sure. And speaking of bringing the past to life, we can't forget Deadwood, South Dakota, the town of Wild Bill Hickok.
Ah, Deadwood. Gunfights, gambling, gold. Classic Wild West, right?
Right out of the movies. It's a place where history and legend kind of blur together. Figures like Hickok become part of the town's identity. Adds to the whole mystique, especially for those fascinated by that era.
I can see that. But our sources make it clear that ghost towns aren't all just about the gold rush. So, ready to move beyond the Wild West. See some other surprising examples.
Yeah, let's do it. What about heading east to a place that's basically a modern-day ghost town, still affected by the past, literally?
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, we're going to Centralia, Pennsylvania. It's a stark reminder that ghost towns aren't just something from the history books.
Okay, I'm listening.
So there's this underground mine fire in Centralia, started back in the 60s. And it's still burning today. Under the town, most people had to evacuate, left behind this almost haunting landscape.
An underground fire still burning? That's intense.
Yeah. It's a story about how industry can shape a place and ultimately abandon it. A reminder that progress can have unintended consequences, you know. Our sources talk about the eerie beauty of Centralia, cracked streets, steam vents, and that constant knowledge of the fire burning beneath your feet.
Wow. Can't even imagine what it'd be like to live with that threat, to know the ground could literally open up beneath you. I wonder about those few people who decided to stay, the ones who didn't evacuate.
Right. What incredible stories they must have. Really shows how resilient people can be. But ready for another change of scenery? Let's go south now, to a town destroyed not by fire, but by water.
Okay, lead the way. This is fascinating.
All right, next up is Cahaba, Alabama. Used to be a busy port on the river, even served as Alabama's first state capital, but nature had other plans.
So what happened?
Flooding, just constant flooding,
Huh.
over and over again. Eventually, everyone had to abandon their homes and businesses. The town's being slowly reclaimed by nature now.
Sad but beautiful, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. And the cool thing is, Cahaba's an archaeological park today, so visitors can walk among the ruins of those old homes. Picture the riverfront in its prime. You can really feel the weight of history there.
Wow, it's a reminder that even in their abandonment, these towns hold so many stories. Echoes of the past. Okay, but for our last stop on this leg of the trip, let's head back west to a ghost town with a totally different story. What about changing times and the impact of progress?
You're talking about Glen Rio, New Mexico/Texas?
Glen Rio, okay.
Yeah, it sits right on the state line. It used to be a busy stop on Route 66, America's mother road.
Oh yeah, Route 66, classic.
Totally. But then they built I-40, which bypassed Glen Rio completely. All that traffic that used to flow through on Route 66 just dried up. The town's lifeblood gone.
That's heartbreaking. A whole town just fading away because of a change in the road.
It's a story you see a lot across America. Towns bypassed by those big interstates, their economies and communities fading away.
So Glen Rio stands as a symbol of that era, how infrastructure and the changing map of America can impact people's lives. So there we have it. From gold fields in California to flooded streets in Alabama, from fiery depths in Pennsylvania to abandoned highways in New Mexico and Texas, we've seen a lot.
We have, and we've only just scratched the surface. Each of these ghost towns gives us a unique look at the forces that shape our world, the choices we make, and what we leave behind.
It's amazing to think about. But before we dive deeper into those stories, let's take a step back. What is it about these abandoned places that captivates us so much? Why are we so drawn to the remnants of the past?
That's a great question. And luckily, our sources have some interesting answers for us. But we'll save that for our next stop on this deep dive.
Okay, so we've done a quick tour of some incredible ghost towns across the U.S. But now let's dig a little deeper. What is it about these deserted places that makes them so fascinating? Why are we so drawn to these echoes of the past?
It's a big question, right? I mean, what is it about these places? Luckily, the articles we've got give us some clues. For a lot of people, it's that direct connection to history. You know, you can walk the same streets, touch the same buildings as those who came before you.
It's like stepping back in time. You're not just reading about it in a book. You're actually there, feeling the presence of history all around you.
Yeah, exactly. And in a world that's increasingly digital, with so much of our lives online, these physical reminders of the past can be even more powerful. It's grounding. It's a way to connect with something real.
Totally. I mean, to stand in a place where history actually happened, where people lived, worked, built their lives, it definitely sparks the imagination. You can't help but wonder about their stories.
And those stories are woven into the very fabric of these towns. Take Body, for example. With its untouched interiors, those dinner tables still set, shops stocked with goods. It's like a snapshot of life frozen in time.
Right. It reminds us that history isn't just dates and battles. It's about the everyday lives of people, the small details that make up the human experience.
And those details can be incredibly powerful. Our sources talk about how objects can transport us back in time. A child's shoe left on a dusty street, a rusty tool leaning against a wall, even a faded photo tucked away in a drawer. Suddenly, these ordinary objects become imbued with history, whispering stories of the lives they touched.
Like little accidental time capsules, holding the memories of a bygone era.
Exactly. And sometimes those memories take on a bit of a spooky edge, you know? Our sources delve into the paranormal side of ghost towns, all those stories of ghost sightings, strange happenings, and unexplained events, things that give you goosebumps.
Okay, now you're talking. Ghost stories. Tell me more.
Well, for example, Cahaba, Alabama. They say it's haunted by this ghostly orb that floats around the old garden maze. And in Kennecott, Alaska, people have reported hearing the echoes of miners' voices in the abandoned buildings.
Spooky. And we can't forget Bannock, Montana. Featured on Ghost Adventures and Everything. Talk about a spooky reputation. Phantom footsteps, strange voices, shadowy figures lurking in the buildings. It's a ghost hunter's dream.
Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's no denying that these stories add to the mystery and intrigue, especially when you're actually in one of these places. Standing in a darkened building, the wind howling through broken windows, your senses are heightened, your mind starts to play tricks on you.
Okay, you're freaking me out a little. But yeah, I get it. There's something alluring about that sense of mystery. The possibility of encountering something beyond our understanding, like stepping into a real-life ghost story.
Right. And that mystery often gets tangled up with a longing for simpler times, a nostalgia for a way of life that seems lost in our modern, tech-obsessed world.
Oh, I definitely feel that. It's easy to romanticize the past, to imagine life in these ghost towns as more authentic, more connected to nature and community.
For sure. And while we don't want to romanticize things too much, life in these towns, especially in the boom towns, was often harsh and unpredictable. It's understandable why people might yearn for a slower pace, an existence less driven by the constant demands of the modern world.
It's like a longing for a simpler life, a connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Maybe that's what you're absolutely right. Let's zoom in on some of those fascinating details highlighted in our sources, the little bits of history that make these ghost towns even more captivating.
Yeah, let's do it. What makes these towns so unique? Let's start with Body, California. What sets it apart?
Well, like we mentioned before, Body's incredibly well preserved. It's a state historic park, and they have that arrested decay approach, remember? But what really makes Body special is the level of detail that remains.
It's amazing. You can walk into homes and see dinner tables set, shops stocked with goods, the schoolhouse with lessons left unfinished on the chalkboard. It's truly like a time capsule.
Exactly. It's those details that make Body so powerful you can almost hear the echoes of life, the laughter, the clatter of dishes, the conversations that once filled those spaces.
Right. Makes you realize these weren't just buildings, they were homes, businesses, places where people lived and dreamed.
And speaking of dreams, let's move on to Kennecott, Alaska, another former mining town. Now it's a National Historic Landmark within Wrangell-St. Elias National Park. Kennecott's known for its massive scale, its industrial grandeur.
Yeah, our sources mention that 14-story mill that dominates the landscape, a testament to the ambition of the Kennecott Copper Corporation. Hard to imagine the amount of copper they extracted from those mountains, the impact it had on people's lives.
And here's the thing. When the company abruptly abandoned Kennecott in 1938, they left the town almost completely intact, including that massive mill, all the machinery, the equipment, everything, just left as it was. It's like a frozen snapshot of a bygone era.
Wow. I can only imagine what it would be like to walk through those buildings, to picture the workers going about their daily tasks, to feel the energy that once pulsed through that place.
It's incredible. And for something completely different, we have Thurmond, West Virginia. Used to be a booming hub for the coal industry.
Thurmond, another story of boom and bust, huh?
Yeah. Rapid growth driven by the demand for coal, and then a slow decline as the industry faded away. What's interesting about Thurmond is that the National Park Service has stepped in. They're restoring a lot of the buildings, giving visitors a glimpse into its past.
So you can visit the restored depot, imagine the trains coming and going, picture the crowds bustling around, bringing the town back to life in a way.
Exactly. A reminder that even in their abandonment, these towns can find new life, their stories preserved and shared with future generations.
I love that. But we can't wrap up our ghost town exploration without touching on their darker side, right? Those eerie legends and spooky tales.
Oh, definitely. The ghost stories. Our sources mention a few ghost towns with some particularly spooky reputations. Places with reported sightings and strange events.
Fill me in.
Take Castle Dome, Arizona, for instance. With its chilling story, that Apache attack and the aftermath, people say the spirits of the past still linger there. Visitors have reported feeling uneasy, hearing whispers and footsteps, even seeing shadowy figures moving among the ruins.
And then there's Kennecott again. Sometimes the silence of that abandoned mill is broken by the eerie echoes of miners' voices. Their ghostly conversations carried on the wind send shivers down your spine.
Definitely adds to the fascination of these places, right? Taps into our primal fears, our curiosity about the unknown, our desire to connect with something beyond our understanding.
It makes them all the more alluring, more intriguing, more unforgettable.
So as we wrap up, I'm curious, what stands out to you about these ghost towns? What's captured your imagination the most?
For me, it's that feeling of stepping back in time, imagining the lives that were lived in these now silent places, trying to grasp the scale of history,
That's a powerful thing. It reminds us that even in their abandonment, these ghost towns still have stories to tell, lessons to teach, and a beauty that can be both haunting and inspiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But our journey isn't over yet. We've got one more stop, and this time we're turning the focus inward.
That's right. In our final segment, we'll explore what these ghost towns can teach us about ourselves, about our own lives, about the legacies we leave behind.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the history, the mystery, even the spooky side of ghost towns. But now I think it's time to get a little more introspective. What can these abandoned places tell us about ourselves, about our own lives, about the impact we make on the world?
I think that's a great question. And honestly, it gets to the core of why we're so fascinated by these ghost towns in the first place. They're not just relics of the past. They actually reflect our own humanity, our hopes, our dreams, and yeah, even our own impermanence.
Our sources definitely touch on that. Like, ghost towns give us this chance for introspection. They force us to think about the passage of time, the ups and downs of life, how fragile the things we build really are.
Absolutely. When you walk through a ghost town, it's like walking through a metaphor for life and death, creation and decay. It's humbling,
Yeah.
and it makes you ask some pretty big questions. What really matters? What do I want to leave behind? What'll be left of my story when I'm gone?
Whoa, those are some deep thoughts. It's like these ghost towns hold up a mirror to us, making us confront our own anxieties, our aspirations, our search for meaning.
I think there's something to that. Maybe that's why we're so drawn to them. They give us a space to contemplate these things, to think about our own mortality and what really matters in the grand scheme of things.
It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, to focus on all the immediate stuff, the material things that don't really last. But ghost towns, they remind us that everything is temporary. Even the biggest, most ambitious things eventually fade away.
Yeah, it shifts your perspective, makes you see the bigger picture, makes you think about what you want to contribute to the world.
And I think it also makes you appreciate what you have right now. The people, the places we love. Because we know nothing lasts forever. It's a reminder to enjoy the journey, savor the good times, learn from the tough ones.
Well said. And speaking of journeys, ours has taken us all over, right? From the gold mines of California to those coal mines in West Virginia. From flooded streets in Alabama to the abandoned highways of New Mexico.
And we've seen how these towns were born, how they flourished, and ultimately how they faded away. Each one leaving behind its own unique story, its own set of lessons.
Exactly. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What stayed with you from this exploration? What resonated the most?
For me, it's that feeling of connection to the past. Imagining those lives lived in these silent places, trying to grasp the scale of it all. It's really powerful stuff. And I hope it's inspired you to learn more about these incredible places. Maybe even plan your own ghost town adventure someday.
Yeah, and as you explore these towns, whether in person or just by reading about them, remember to really listen. The stories they tell, those whispers of the past, they might just have something to teach you about yourself, your place in the world, and the legacy you'll leave behind.
We hope you enjoyed the ride. And who knows, maybe it sparked a new curiosity in you, a desire to explore those forgotten corners of America where the past still lingers.